Take it away.
We are live 364 days a year. What are we doing here?
If Dom turns at SummerSlam, I'm shaving my moustache off. I've told you, if that happens, it's going. My lip is cold because of a stupid bet that I made with YouTube.
Oh, good.
Wrestle's better than Daniel Bryan. Bryan Daniels. Better than Okada.
How do you not get Ricky after Monday Night Raw? What's going on, everybody? We're back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Saturday, May the 3rd. Kentucky Derby Day. Shout out Drizzy. I know that's one of the biggest days of the year for him as far as Louisville is concerned, but he's not here today. I've got a great crew with me. We have some unfortunate topics out of the gates, or one out of the gates that's just always sad to have to break down, but we will do that after that. We've got some more positives. But let me introduce my crew that's hanging out with me today really quickly. First and foremost, I'll send this one out to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I haven't seen this dude in a while, not since Mania, at least, other than maybe a few times here and there watching some wrestling. But it's good to see you again. Our head of opinions, Anthony Ricciardi. What's going on, buddy?
I'm doing all right. You know, the Kentucky Derby is always a special thing. Many years ago, Smarty Jones came very close to getting the Triple Crown. So it's always a fun thing. The Derby is. And yeah, we are covering obviously an unfortunate topic from yesterday and, SmackDown. So let's get into it.
100%. But before we do, we've also got a massive return to the daily broadcast. It has been far too long since I've seen my friend, the always controversial, but always cool as well. Ignacio, how are you? Happy Saturday, my friend.
I'm doing a lot better than I was 2 weeks ago. That's for sure. I missed all the Mania festivities and all the Mania shows because all the madness that happened on day one of WrestleMania Day almost ruined my WrestleMania Day experience, but nothing can ruin that. But I'm back. I'm excited and somber about some of the topics we're talking about. And I'll say this real quick. I apologize to Shad and David Sheldon because I didn't make the show that day. We were supposed to talk about SmackDown on that WrestleMania night one day, but we'll make it up because I don't want David Sheldon to think that I skipped out on the show because of him. I don't want to give him that leeway. So we got to do a show together.
I love that. Absolutely. It would have been a heck of a lineup, but as we know, things happen 100%. And we're glad to have you back on this Saturday, Ignacio, no doubt. We got some comments out of the gates. Friend of the show, Fernando Zayas with Good Afternoon WR Crew. What's going on, Fernando? And he said he's very sad for the talent that lost their jobs last night. I think we can all agree on that one. DCX Warlord with my heart goes out to Drizzy and Shad. No doubt about it. As far as the WWE releases are concerned, I am going to just go ahead and list them off out of the gates here, and then we'll talk about this. It's just terrible. But it's one of those things. It's kind of the nature of the business these days. We had Gigi Dolan, Riley Osborne, Eddie Thorpe, Jakar Jackson, all of Gallus, Joe Coffey, Mark Coffey, and Wolfgang, Ora Mensa, Javier Bernal, Braun Strowman, Dakota Kai, Shayna Baszler, Kaden Carter, and Katana Chance, as well as Shotzi Blackheart. What a wild list. So many names that stand out. The one that blows me away is Jakara Jackson. I thought she and Lash Legend were doing great work and very over. Another name that I didn't actually see on this list, but that I do believe is also on the list is Cora Jade. Cora Jade threw me for an absolute loop. I'm going to go to you out of the gates on this, Anthony. Which names, Braun Strowman as well, but which names stick out the most to you? And I mean, just do you see where maybe some of these talents might end up in the near future?
I think a lot of them will probably end up in TNA is the most likely landing spot. I think for a lot of them, possibly AEW, but I know GG is involved with what's his name from Zachary Wentz, who's in TNA. So I think there's a good chance she goes there. Cora Jade's obviously appeared there under the NXT WWE partnership that they have with TNA. So I think that's a good shot. Gallus can go there. I think a lot of them could end up there in all seriousness. It's unfortunate whenever they release talent. But it's an unfortunate side of the business, whether you look at it from an entertainment side or sports side. It's a business that is constantly having an influx of new and young talent. I think one of the best examples, if you want to look at professional football, there are constantly every year there is young talent, whether wide receivers, running backs, younger, cheaper, that are trying to take a veteran spot because maybe the veteran lost a step here and there. It's an unfortunate side of the business. But we've seen plenty of talent be released and have continued to thrive, made more money, got more demand to come back to WWE, whether it was Drew McIntyre, who was released, reinvented himself. The company came back, paid him more money to come back. You look at Cody Rhodes. Technically, he asked for his release, but same scenario. Reinvented himself, came back. Matt Cardona, who still has not come back, but he's certainly elevated his game. Mustafa Ali is another one that has left and elevated his game. So you either elevate your game or you disappear in obscurity. But having that tagline of former WWE superstar can make you a lot of money on the independents, and can continue to generate money. But it happens whether it's WWE, AEW, whatever you want to say. When people say that they have bloated rosters, they have a finite amount of space that they can put this talent in. The hours do not increase. The time does not increase. So when people go, well, they should be booked better. Okay, how? Whose time are you cutting? That is the part that people don't seem to take into account. They just go, well, they want them to be employed. And also, I'm like, I understand that, but you're not guaranteed a position for 30 years. It's very few talents that get paid for multiple.
Have that kind of longevity.
Yes.
And I do think, The Miz made some mentions about seeing people released.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was a direct shot at this. I actually think that was a shot at AEW, to be honest. But one second. One more thing I'll add. People forget this is now run by a major corporation, TKO.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the UFC just lost a gigantic lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
As far as fighter pay is concerned.
Yeah.
And cost cutting across TKO to ensure shareholders of the price it's at makes a heck of a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is necessarily on the WWE cleaning house.
Yeah.
I think this is a cost cutting measure. You look at probably size of contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Braun Strowman's on a bigger contract. He's a veteran. He's a former champion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only logic I can see in a cut like that. We just saw him have a great series of matches with Jacob Fatu.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another factor here for me. Cora Jade is the one that stands out the most because of her relationship with CM Punk, how close they are and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I fear the AEW aspect of this is difficult for her. My hope is that AEW is still willing to give Cora Jade a shot, or New Japan, or, because she's only 22.
I think the most likely landing spot for her, in all seriousness, is probably TNA. And not only does she have history there, but we also know CM Punk's buddy Ace Steel is heavily involved in the company.
Yes.
Now, her release, I was a little surprised. I don't know, and I don't want to recklessly speculate, but we do know that she was at one point with Braun Breaker. I don't know how that ended. If that played a role in any of this, I have no idea, because it was kind of a surprise release with her, considering the fact she's been predominantly used. But the thing, I think the other factor you need to consider is there is AEW talent that could be coming in, and also WWE just bought AAA. We don't know if that factors in of talent. Like you have a finite amount of talent you can showcase. I don't know if there's a part of it, but we've seen WWE release a lot of people. This is a relatively small list compared to the Vince bloodletting from a few years ago.
And it's a different deal. It's also not like the day after Mania, like they used to do it. Now, Ignacio, I got to ask you about this one as well, because, there's a lot of names here. Is there one in particular that sticks out to you? Is there a direction you see? Just kind of talks to me in general about all of this, because it is a unique situation. It happens a few times, either every year or every few years. We're just in a unique spot here where a lot of talent that we appreciate are now free agents, essentially.
Yeah, nobody really surprised. This type of stuff doesn't really surprise me anymore, no matter who it is, because the way I think of it is it's not like, and you can say that with more than half of the people on this list. It's not a we don't want you situation. It's a we don't need you situation, as in we don't need you right now. We could need you 6 months from now. We can need you a year from now. We can need you 3 months from now. Who knows? But I think for more than half of the people on this list, it's we don't need you right now. Braun Strowman's served his purpose since his comeback. I mean, he's gotten the bigger guys over. The only one I guess that would kind of surprised me a little bit would have been Cora Jade, because I thought that she was very active in NXT and everything. And, I thought eventually she would be called up with the main roster, especially with Roxy getting called up. She was a really good up and coming talent, but, maybe they want to get her further developed in TNA. Maybe they want her to be involved with Evolve or something later on. But I mean, it's nobody really surprises me. The WWE's bringing in talent. They're bringing in, how many people have they signed within the last 3 months? Penta, and they signed Phoenix, and they signed Rusev, and they're bringing in Aleister Black back. And, these are talents that you can incorporate in storylines almost right off the bat. They don't need to be developed. Their characters have been developed. The people know who they are, as far as Rusev and Aleister Black. Penta now is developing a following. Everybody's been impressed with Phoenix. So these are talents that have garnered a fan base right away, and the hardcores already knew who they were. So they're going to put effort into developing these talents and incorporating them into stories they can now. With talent that like Cora Jade and the tag team Katana and Chance, they serve their purpose. They were a tag team in the women's division. They kind of run their course. So like I said, it's not like we don't want you situation. It's we don't need you right now situation. And maybe on down the road, depending on how they develop on the independents or AEW or other promotions, TNA or what have you, or in Mexico or Japan, WWE would probably be more than glad to bring them back. But at the same time, WWE has so much, they got NXT, and now they got AAA, and now they want to do stuff in Europe, and they got TNA, and they got Performance, they got Next in Line, and they got LFG and all this stuff. I mean, they're not going to be any short from for anything short of talent. So, all they can say is these people, they just got to work hard. Matt Cardona is probably the prime example. And I think Matt Cardona, WWE's probably reached out to him, and Matt Cardona is just happy kind of doing his own thing because, he reinvented himself. He does the action figures, and he wrestles, and he does the YouTube deal. So, there's hope for these talents. I hope they land somewhere and land on their feet. But now, as far as like where I can see people going, I mean, I don't know who has the 90-day clause thing, but I could see, or if that's even a thing anymore. But
some have 30-day clauses. Like Gigi Dolan actually tweeted about that directly. A lot of the NXT talent have 30-day clauses.
30, yeah.
I mean, I'd be surprised if I don't see like Braun Strowman and TNA and AEW like next month.
So for me, also, I love the way you broke down the need and want thing. I think that is a very good point, because also I do think this is a cost-cutting measure, right? This is getting contracts off the books. And like you said, we don't need you now. So that's how those decisions were made. I think that logically makes perfect sense, Ignacio. And the other, we mentioned Cora Jade. She's been mentioned over and over again, especially because of the youth. That's the one positive. At 22 years old, she's got more than enough time to find a route back.
Yes.
And it may actually be one of the better redemption stories, given her injury history at such a young age in the WWE that we see. Another name, though, that stood out to me, Jakara Jackson. And our very own Ben, whatever. She's 30 years old. The number 3's
as if that makes you dead.
As if that makes you old.
Well,
she's got more than enough time.
People don't get over nowadays till like their late 30s, early 40s.
Yes, 40s.
Like, yeah. look at LA Knight and
look at DDP. DDP's a prime example. He got in the business at 35.
Dave Bautista.
Yes, another prime example.
I mean, the Boogeyman debuted at 48.
Yes.
Like, he lied about his age on Tough Enough.
Yes.
And got away with it. It's one of the best stories I've ever heard. He just was like, I'm going to be younger.
Think about how many generations of talent R-Truth's worked with. He's worked with multiple generations of talent.
Absolutely crazy. Now, honestly, let's move on to something slightly less upsetting. Let's try fun stuff. Let's talk about SmackDown. We've got a United States title 4-way Now set for Backlash. This one is going to be Damian Priest, Los Angeles Knight, Drew McIntyre, and the Samoan Werewolf, Jacob Fatu. I'm, before I toss this to you, just going to say, Anthony, Fatu's time to shine, man.
Absolutely.
I think he decimates all three.
Mm-hmm.
And they're three absolute studs. I think he runs through them like an absolute wrecking ball, but that's just my pick. I want you to break this down. And also how we got there last night. I enjoyed the segment for the way it was booked.
No, without a doubt. I've said on here, on air, and I know I've said privately to Clark, Jacob Fatu is the guy. He's the next big guy. I think it's him, and I think Braun Breaker are the two that like legitimately will be main eventing Manias and being the face of the brand when the time comes in the next few years. I did like the segment. Essentially, Solo is again intentionally or unintentionally causing problems for Jacob because originally it was supposed to be a three-way, and then he mentioned casually like, well, Drew won this. He's like, you know what? That is a good point. I should make it a four-way. So I'm sure, Jacob is really thrilled that the former multiple-time world champion Drew McIntyre got added to this. I think the money match out of this is Drew and Jacob one-on-one at some point. I think Jacob Fatu needs to have a dominant reign as U.S. champion, and I think, whoever beats him needs to get made. LA Knight is already over. Priest is a former world champion. He doesn't really need the rub. Drew certainly doesn't need the rub. But I think that's a smart money. One of the other segments from last night, and I know this isn't directly related to this, but I know this is not on this. I absolutely loved Chelsea Green's segment last night. I thought that was absolutely phenomenal. I know that's not a direct topic for today, but I do want to say, like, other than the Jacob Fatu U.S. title getting booked in a segment, I thought the Chelsea one was phenomenal to set up her U.S. title rematch. I thought it was very well done, and Chelsea really is probably, in my opinion, the best rehire that Hunter brought back as far as when he did the influx of bringing talent back. I think she's probably the best, and her having a stable around her is brilliant. And I'm very much looking forward to what Aleister Black's going to be doing as the return talent as well.
Absolutely. I loved what they did last night with that group, as well as Zelina Vega and that video at the memorial.
Oh, it was awesome.
If that didn't choke you up, I don't know what does.
Zelina Vega is one of those talents that, in all seriousness, no, if it doesn't tug at the heartstrings, her passion for this business and why, and her connection with losing her father in 9/11, I don't know if you have a pulse. Because it's one of the best it's one of the best stories in wrestling, and she definitely deserves a world title reign at some point. But the U.S. title will do for now. But it's long overdue.
Absolutely. I mean, taking that belt to the memorial was just like, oh, it got me. I've been to the memorial myself. It's one of those things that's just moving.
It's hallowed ground. Yes,
and you understand it's so crazy, and to have her own father's name there and to take the belt there is just like, oh. Yeah. Right, it'll get every bit of the feels when it comes to stuff like that. But I do now have to do an ad read. This is a pretty botched transition because it's tough to go from that to an ad read, but we're going to do it anyway. Let's talk about the Itsy app really quick. Download the Itsy app on the App Store or the Google Play Store and head over to the upcoming streams section. It's absolutely free, and the best part is every time we do these live streams, you can jump in as long as you got a phone. You can talk to us. You don't even have to turn the camera on. You're allowed to turn the camera on if you'd like, and you're allowed to absolutely argue with any of my takes about Cody Rhodes you don't like or whatever you don't like. Come on, we can vet it, but I will say it will be a long argument for you, my friend, but please do join. Absolutely, and the best part, it's totally free. Speaking of totally free, so is our next segment. Let's talk Aleister Black's in-ring return. Aleister Black is back. Totally rhymed that on purpose. Love the spin kick always. Love that we get to call it the Black Mass again. I think that's awesome. I think it's cool they gave him the Muay Thai shorts like they did before. I think that was 100% worth it in every single way. Now let's talk about, though, the direction for the future as well. I liked this for a return match. It was a little bit of a dress down entrance WWE wise compared to what he had in the past. But what part of the card do we see Aleister Black on in the future? Obviously, we had that stare down with Carmelo Hayes. We know Carmelo likes to have 5-7 match series. I don't think that's the future. I do think an encounter makes sense. But Ignacio, I want you to make some sense of it. Talk to me about what you thought about last night, as well as Aleister Black's impending future here over on SmackDown.
Well, I think they could have done a little bit better job developing, not developing his character, but they should have done more vignettes and built up more anticipation for his return. Because you got to understand is that Aleister Black, he was a hit on NXT, but his main event, his main roster run in WWE last time was, I mean, forgettable. Let's be honest. He didn't have a lot of big matches. I mean, he had a series of good matches with Buddy Matthews on Raw for that 4 to 6 week stretch that Paul Heyman, when he was in charge of Raw at the time, he was the executive director, put him on TV purposely because they were having good matches. And he wanted to showcase that to Vince McMahon, and Vince didn't care too much. So, other than that, a lot of people don't remember. They didn't remember Aleister Black. A lot of the people that don't follow AEW or any other promotion forgot about him. They don't remember him. So I think they could have done a little bit better reintroducing him. They could have built up anticipation and maybe held off the debut to a pay-per-view like Backlash or the following. I think that would have benefited him more. But the match was good. I mean, it was solid. It showcased his strengths, which is he's presented as a striker, and they did just that. It was, a competitive match, and the reason why that it wasn't a squash is because Miz is a veteran. He's been in WWE for 20 years. He's a two-time, a champion, a WWE champion, main event in WrestleMania. So he's got a resume and credentials. So a lot of people said, well, he just should have hit him with the Black Mass, and that was in 1, 2, 3 or whatever. But they wanted to showcase his talent and his skills, and I think that's what they did. Now going forward, I think because a lot of the audience has forgotten about Aleister Black or Malachi Black, I think it's good to start him on the path that they have set him on. Not necessarily start him on the bottom, but I mean, he's definitely starting in maybe the bottom of the mid card and then have him work his way up to the main event scene, build anticipation, add more to the mystique, build the character, start introducing these people to these people who either forgot about him or it's first time seeing him, introduce him to these fans that aren't familiar with Aleister Black, start doing a little bit more vignettes, eventually start getting him on the microphone. And I think, building him up eventually to get to the main event scene is probably the smartest thing to do right now. And I would like to add, I think the best thing they can do is protect his finish.
Yes.
Protect the black mass. Protect the black mass. Maybe if he hits the black mass, that person's done. They're not kicking out. But once he hits the black mass on whoever,
that's ice.
And they kick out, it's just like, well, come on. He's got a good finish. It looks believable. It looks realistic. It goes with his background. They need to protect it.
To your point, Miz deserves a lot of credit for last night's match. He sold those strikes, not even just the black mass he sold, maybe the best I've ever seen anyone do it. But that knee on the outside, the way he actually sort of stiffened up, like his shoulders rolled back, he threw his hands behind himself and had just like a googly-eyed look and spit out the corner of his mouth, like multiple times. The back elbow he sold like a wizard. The Miz, we can be as critical as we like of him and his status in the WWE and everything, whatever, over the years, he sold like a madman for those strikes last night. But I do have one more thing I want to add, Anthony, before you go on this, because there's only one thing that bothered me. And I love you mentioned it early in what you were saying, Ignacio. that they present him as a striker. And this is a little bit nitpicky, but I gotta say it. I gotta get it off my chest. There are massive crossovers between Muay Thai and Dutch kickboxing. He is a Dutch kickboxer. He's not using clinch strikes like a Muay Thai fighter, and they kept saying Muay Thai over and over again. While he uses some Muay Thai techniques, he's a traditionally trained Dutch kickboxer, and that bothered me on commentary. It's not their fault. That's probably what they've been fed. But the reality of the situation is stylistically, a Dutch kickboxer creates angles to deliver uninhibited strikes in a way that a Muay Thai fighter would not. They're going to use more clinching. Some of the elbows is very Muay Thai-esque, but those knees and the way those kicks come from a side angle and whatnot, as opposed to squared up like a traditional Muay Thai fighter, that is classic Dutch kickboxing. And there's guys like Mirko Krokop and Ernesto Hoost out there who obviously trained with CM Punk that, you know, could tell you about the difference. And I just wish that they had gotten that one, that aspect of it spot on. Now, I would imagine the majority of the audience, whoop, right over their head. Doesn't matter. So that's maybe just a me thing, but I did have to say it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm in agreement. Let's get him to the main event. Let's protect the black mass. That spinning heel kick, which, by the way, is much more Dutch kickboxing than it is Muay Thai. Whoops, got him again. Just saying. But at the same time, even the leg kicks, very, very different leg kicks. They're not the calf kicks you're going to see in Muay Thai. They were the higher on the leg, the thigh, chopping the thigh down kicks you're going to see in Dutch kickboxing. There's all kinds of great striking out there. He's as good as anybody when it comes to that. Bobby Petito added that Aleister Black versus Carmelo should be next, or could be next. I think for sure. Sean Ellis said Aleister Black next WWE Intercontinental / US champion. I have no problem with either one of those. Yeah, I mean, and then excellent return for Aleister, and he versus Carmelo is going to be a banger. I agree because I also think Carmelo Hayes can sell the striking as well as anybody too. And that is a major factor. But yeah, Anthony, did you have anything to add about Black's in-ring return? Because I know you mentioned it in the previous segment as well.
Yeah. The first thing I want to touch on, obviously, because you mentioned The Miz. I think when everything is said and done, The Miz is incredibly underrated on what he's been able to do in his career. It's a full redemption story, because when you think about when he came in, he's the reality show kid. He was kicked out of the locker room by a veteran. And the fact that he is respected as he is backstage, and him being able to get other talent over. He's had his run, and he still fills in that role when he's needed. But selling for other talent is probably one of his best traits, and is helped with his longevity in the company. As far as Aleister goes, I absolutely think you need to, the sky's the limit for this guy. And I think with Hunter behind him, booking him like he did in NXT, I think that the sky's the limit. I think that the logical move is the US title. He probably would be the most ideal person to take the belt off of Jacob, because right now they can't necessarily put him in the world title picture unless it's on Raw, because right now for the rest of the year, it is now held hostage by Cena. And I don't see Aleister being the one to dethrone Cena from this belt. I think it's going to go to the end, and it's probably going to be Cody, probably, or Jacob. It's going to be somebody with lineage that's going to probably save the history of the title. So I think in the meantime, putting him in the US title picture at some point and giving him the belt and having a run with it is probably a safe position, unless you want to move him to Raw and have him go for the world title on Raw. As long as he stays on SmackDown with Selena. And that's another thing. If he wins the US title at the same time while she's the US champion, it'd be the first husband and wife to simultaneously hold it. Obviously, Cardona and Chelsea have the current record of being the only husband and wife to do it, but simultaneously at the same time, Aleister has a chance of doing that.
Now, I'll say this. You made me like the Grinch right now. I just had a wicked, awful idea. You mentioned Aleister Black and Jacob Fatu. Could you imagine if the way that Jacob Fatu finally takes a loss is
Mhm.
he goes to hit that moonsault and Aleister Black hits the black mass in midair.
I honestly,
That's one of those that could be on the intro for 20 years.
I think you could do that. I think Jacob is the only one, almost like a Haku,
Capable.
As much as you want to protect the black mask, I could totally see a moment where he hits that black mask and Jacob like no sells it at all. Like, you know, like just visually.
But I wouldn't want that. I want Jacob Fatu goes for that moonsault and somehow Aleister stands up and kicks him with the black mass out of midair.
He might be able to do that.
I think those two are the only two I could think of that could pull that spot off.
Yeah, I could also see, you know, Aleister is the type that could flip away from Jacob in a way that no one else can. So, like, if he goes for some type of,
I see it almost like the Shelton springboard into the Sweet Chin Music spot.
Yeah,
similar.
You absolutely could do that. I think those two could have amazing chemistry together, and as far as I know, they have never faced each other, even on the independents, as far as I know.
Right.
But if just on paper, those two could be money.
And then we've got this one here from DCX Warlord. He goes, Aleister having a Randy moment. Yes. Exactly what I'm saying. See, we're on the same page here.
You know, he is the one guy that it might take more than one black mass to take Jacob out, but I think it's forgivable because it's Jacob and he's a beast.
We've also got Fernando Zayas with excellent idea, Clark. I appreciate that. And then D6 Warlord with Jimmy Uso should win the King of the Ring. I'd be cool with that. That's a separate topic. We're not going to get way into that. Big Jam.
We don't know when they're doing that. They haven't said
okay.
when they're going to do that.
Let's talk about our main event of the afternoon here, the women's WWE title drama from last night. We had a tag match. We had our champion in action, Tiffany Stratton, Tiffy time, alongside Jade Cargill, taking on Nia Jax and Caution Tape Naomi, as I like to call her these days. No more glow. It's Caution Tape from here on out.
It's the Owen Hart look.
Get your glow sticks away from here. Not now, my friends. I really enjoyed this match. I thought Nia Jax actually shone throughout the match. She's great in this one. Naomi was great. I love leaning into the new character as much as she has. And all of that. Dang it, Jade Cargill's so strong. She powerbombed Nia Jax into oblivion, in the words of the great Mike Tyson. I mean, Jade Cargill looks as good as she's ever looked bell to bell, and she's always looked good presentation-wise and always had the charisma. This, in my eyes, is someone coming into their own. One thing I didn't like, we're in the middle of the Stanley Cup playoffs. What do you not do if you haven't won it yet? You don't touch the cup. You don't touch the cup. It's bad luck. I understand it's a little different because it's pro wrestling, but I'm just saying, she wouldn't give the title back. She posed in it, did the whole thing, rubbed her hands all over it. And then next thing you know, gets attacked from behind. Tiffany barely even got her belt back before we went off air. I don't even know if she did. It's probably just laying in the ring. Either way, it's not about that. I enjoyed the match last night, and man, am I looking forward to Jade Cargill versus Tiffy time, because these are two unbelievable athletes. And I think if there's a moment where Jade can really take that next step at this stage of her career, her and Tiffany, with both of their athleticism, both of their level of experience, can put on a heck of a match. Ignacio, I want your opinion on what you saw last night, and are you looking forward to that potential showdown?
No, not really. I mean, nobody. Tiffany's run isn't. I mean, she just hasn't really impressed me. I think her match with Charlotte at WrestleMania was subpar at best. I like the character. I like the character work Naomi's doing. I like Jade Cargill. And she had a good match with Naomi at WrestleMania. She showcased what she's improved on and what she can do. But then I didn't think her match with Tiffany last week was very good. I thought maybe Tiffany was trying to cater to Jade's weaknesses, and I think Jade still has some weaknesses, and I think that's showing. And even though I think she's improved, but I don't think these women can be in a match together unless they have a veteran in front of them. I'm sorry. They're still dependent on Becky Lynch, and they're still dependent on Charlotte Flair. And I hope they don't release Bayley because, they're really going to miss her, because I don't think these women are capable of having a good match unless they have a good leader, to lead them. I think at least on the SmackDown side, the women's division is very weak. And the only thing that's got me interested in the other channel with the women's division is Rhea chasing the title again. And I think people are really waiting for her to have the title back. But yeah, I mean, it's not very. I'm not very impressed with what they're doing on SmackDown and on the women's division. Not really.
I hear you.
Sorry.
And it's interesting because even Cap Casque added, Ignacio, I like you, man, but I won't take any Tiffany slander. Okay. I actually, Ignacio, am probably closer to your opinion on this than most, because I think Tiffany's so talented. She's actually a little bit underperformed. I think part of that was the dance partner in Charlotte Flair. I think we'll see the best of Tiffany. So I'm a little bit right. I'm in the middle here. I think we'll see the best of Tiffany given a different dance partner. There was just something chemistry-wise that didn't work.
Yes, there was
between those two. And I'm not blaming either performer, right? Things happen. It can get awkward. I don't know exactly what has gone on behind the scenes. It may have been one thing that happened on TV. It may have been one thing or the other. So I'm not going to put the blame in one court. But I do think Jade is a good dance partner for Tiffany, in that Jade can either be I think she has to be the heel in this rivalry at this point, but she can pick at Tiffany in a way that Tiffany can sort of jab back easier and more freely than with Charlotte Flair. And we might be able to see better mic work, because even the Toodles last night on the pre-conversation, it was less awkward when Jade said what do you think about, we're teaming tonight, but what do you think about me being the potential next number one contender? And Tiffany sort of gave her like yeah, whatever, Toodles, right? And I thought that was arguably a better exchange than anything she had with Charlotte. That's just the way that I looked at it. So I am curious, but Anthony, I do, before we head home, want to get your thoughts on the same situation. Jade, Tiffany, the match last night, talk to me about everything.
Okay. First off, I think the Tiffany Charlotte feud failed because they weren't sure what they wanted to do, who they wanted to face and the heel to begin with. So it started off on the wrong foot. And I don't think a baby face is her natural instinct, Tiffany. And that's why I think it just really didn't connect. I think she's a natural heel, personally. I think she's the heel that people love to hate. I think that's the Barbie gimmick is very much her thing. I would not make Jade the heel. I would keep Jade as a face, because it really wouldn't make sense since she just came out of the feud with Naomi turning as a heel and she beat Naomi. So I would keep Jade as a face. I think Jade has this aura about her that even if you don't know professional wrestling and you see her, she's somebody. She has that aura. Like, you don't have to know. And I think I would be fully behind a Jade taking the title off of her, to be perfectly honest. I think that the match last night, other than Chelsea Green, I think Nia Jax is the second best hire that Triple H made. Alistair might be number 3, just coming in my opinion. But I think, the chemistry works. Obviously, Nia and Naomi are technically related by marriage in the long Samoan line. So they obviously have chemistry together. And I think that would actually be a smart move if you wanted to take the tag titles and put them on them, especially with Liv Morgan, I guess, being out of the picture at some point. And since it's a title that apparently appears on all brands, that wouldn't be a bad idea to give Naomi and Nia that run. I think that wouldn't be a bad move. Jade against Tiffany, I think that's the money. I think a lot of us were surprised that Tiffany retained against Charlotte. I think everyone thought, okay, well, Charlotte's beating the living crap out of Tiffany on the mic. It's Charlotte. It's Mania. I think most of us were pretty shocked that Tiffany retained. But I am fully on board for a Jade taking the title. I'm fully on board for that. I think it could work. I think Jade could definitely have a feud, whether it's with Naomi or with others, and I think it can work. Jade as champion works. We saw in AEW with the TBS championship. So I think she obviously has more experience now,
right,
under the WWE umbrella. She's significantly better as a performer now than she was when she came in.
She's got the reps finally.
She's got the reps. She's been properly, conditioned. Unlike and this isn't a knock at AEW, but AEW doesn't do house shows, so she's doing more reps. Her only reps in AEW were squash matches on TV once a week, and she didn't have much
time to sell, no time to work.
So now
cameras,
and I am fully on board. I think you could run with this with her.
Well, and you brought up a great point. I actually now, and Fernando said it here, agreed. Tiffany needs to turn heel.
Yes.
I agree on the flip. I first said it the opposite, and now I agree on that. Because the other thing is, I watched with a buddy of mine who's a super casual wrestling fan, but he had never really seen Jade before.
Yes.
Last week. And he sees Jade and he goes, who is she? She looks like a video game character. And I'm like, right? She's chiseled out of stone.
She's
like, they don't make people like Jade Cargill.
The reason why her whole gimmick is with the snow and the storm is coming because she looks so much like the Marvel character Storm. So there's legitimate, like, it's kind of built in, it's eye-catching. She has an eye-catching aura about her.
They don't make people built like Jade Cargill.
Yes.
Like she's a real life, like, video game character. She looks like a statue at times.
Yes.
A statue that moves. It's mind numbing how physically talented she is. And then the charisma is there as well. The attitude, all of it. Yep. It's just connecting the dots inside those ropes.
She has confidence now. She really absolutely has confidence, and you can tell.
Yeah. I think it's incredible, but I will say also, that is going to bring us to the end of today's show, my friends. It's been an absolute blast. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. We really appreciate it. We've got all kinds of good stuff coming up. Please do tune in tomorrow, same time, same place. That's, of course, noon Pacific, 3 o'clock on the East Coast, 8 o'clock in the UK, and, of course, 9 a.m. for my friends in Hawaii. On behalf of me, Anthony Ignacio, everyone at WR, thank you for tuning in. Have an excellent rest of your weekend. Enjoy your Saturday, and we will talk to you soon.